All right, welcome to episode 86 of Random Thoughts. Today we're going to talk about how to squeeze in extra cardio.
Yeah, without accumulating those extra gram reaction forces that come with sprinting.
Yeah. And so we would love to make, in an ideal world, you would have people do all their fitness be very specific to the sport, because that's the best thing to do. Is, you know, the best basketball specific fitness you can do is going to be playing a basketball game. The best football specific fitness you can do is playing a footy game, soccer, and so forth. But you physically just can't handle that much of that, and it's hard to arrange it sometimes, and your body just breaks down if you do too much.
Particularly bones. Bones and tendons tend to adapt a little slower than muscles. Yeah. So they tend to bear the brunt, and they'll dig deeper and deeper holes of unrecoveredness. Yeah. Should we talk? I think to appreciate how helpful and clever unloaded cardio can be, I think you probably need to have a little discussion around supercompensation. Yeah. Should I talk about that a little?
Yeah,
let's go into that. Supercompensations. We've got an article about it. It's a really big deal.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the magic trick of the human body, I reckon. The idea being that when you do a thing, and if your body, and so that thing could be, let's call it running 2K. So you run 2K, but your body isn't used to running 2K. And it actually sustains damage, micro doses of damage and impact.
Or in my case recently, major damage where your calves are tight for 3 days afterwards.
Yeah. So you sustain damage, and the magic thing is the body then responds to that damage with an adaptive response of rebuilding you stronger and better so that you can cope with that next time. So that's the adaptive response.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, that was pretty intense. You're probably going to do that again. I better be ready for it next time. Otherwise, it's going to hurt again. So it gets stronger and fitter, specific to what you do to it.
Yeah. And the really cool thing is that what your body actually does is it overdoes it by about 5% or whatever.
Maybe even less, fractional. Yeah.
Yeah, but what it does is it builds you slightly stronger than you were the previous time. So it's not just that you build yourself back up to the baseline. Because then what would happen is you go for a 2K run, you're really sore. You go and you do it again, and
you really sore.
So it builds you up a little better than you were.
With terms of the percentage, I would say the percentage decays as you get better. It comes back to that law of diminishing returns. So in the early days when you're first starting, say your 2K, so perfect example of the 2K, I've been running about 2Ks every week preparing for our triathlon, which is coming up in 60 something days. So our first run was horrible. I was sore for 3 days. Next one was pretty average. I was sore for about 2 days. Next one, I was sore for about 1 day. And I'm now about, I think, my 10th or 12th running. I'm going about every second or third day at the moment. No soreness. Yeah.
Because
woke up feeling amazing.
Because the time it takes, you got to think of it as digging a hole. And so if you look at the image, could we maybe in this case actually just flash up a little picture as well, perhaps?
Yeah. Let's flash that up. Yep. For the video people on audio land, you're going to have to go to the article for the image.
But it's that idea of you dig a little hole and then there's that upswing. Yeah. And the more adapted you are to the stimulus, the shallower a hole. Therefore, the quicker you come back up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the change, is that now you're digging tiny little holes.
Relative to my fitness that I went with into that run. So the first session I had no fitness, no muscle capacity, so therefore the hole was massive and took forever to come out of. Now I'm only digging little shallow grooves and shooting out of them within 48 hours.
And proper runners, unlike us, people actually good at running, they can run every day because they dig such a little.
They'll run 6 sessions a week for sure. Yeah.
So that's supercompensation, and the issue is that if you just apply a more is more approach, what happens is
of the same stress.
So on Monday you run let's say you run the first 2K you've run in months on the Monday, and if you then you're desperate to get fit because you've got a triathlon,
hypothetically,
and you then run another 2K 24 hours later, you're actually digging a deeper hole before you
on top of the first hole.
Or under it.
Yeah, in the bottom of the first hole. Yeah. I hate the depth of the first. Yeah, so you've dug your first hole and then you continue digging 24 hours later into the same hole.
And so you're not allowing the magical upswing. And you keep doing that and you end up with some form of a bone. And you can get away, you can do it, and it might not be that your muscles snap the next day.
We won't instantly implode as you start that second 2K run. It's not that simple.
Yeah, but you'll either have a muscular problem within days, a tendinous problem within
10 to 14 days is typically the rule.
And then a month later, you're likely to have some sort of bony stress response because the body just needs the time. It needs time for its rebuilding.
This is why every year we do the big holiday program push, because particularly our basketballs, they'll come back into the Australia Day tournament, and other sports will come back into first term sport, which is typically intense because they have track and field for school. They do APS school sports the first term, and then pre-seasons for footy and soccer kick off. Everyone goes from nothing over January to everything in February.
No, wait a minute. They have been doing body surfing.
So they're
watching the cricket. That's strenuous. And if they're really trying to upset me, they've been doing sand running.
That video is linked below as well.
There's another year goes by, and they're all like, Durham, I did heaps of sand running. I'm like, no.
That's beyond today's discussion. But have it known, it frustrates us.
So where were we?
But so they do nothing, and then they go into the most intense couple of months of the year with January basketball
it really
tournaments
ramps
and
up
February pre-season for soccer and footy. And then about a month after they kick things off, little stress fractures,
some of them will have some
niggles, little hot spots everywhere, and then give it trouble.
And so you can't. So if you could just get people really fit, really rapidly, with only impact-based cardio, with specific running stuff, I would do that.
And scrimmages and game type
you would just say,
yeah.
let's and the team that is the best in the world, the athlete that is the best in the world, just be the one that did the most hours. Like, oh well, I did 44 hours this week.
Yeah,
I'm now the best. But it's not. There's a really fine balance between overtraining and undertraining, and that's very
massive.
It's a massive thing to get correct. The thing I love about the idea of unloaded cardio is the idea that you can get extra fitness into an athlete without extra unwanted grain reaction forces. So you can run on the Monday and then smash yourself on the bike on the Tuesday,
or even on the Monday as well if you want.
If you can cope with that hormonally and systemically, because it is important to be clear. It's not just bones. There is also your system gets
adrenal fatigue and stuff like that. Yeah, and glycogen stores. Yeah, there's other factors.
But yeah, it's a great trick. And so like. You've been doing that. You've been getting a fair bit of bike in.
Yeah, so I've been running pretty pathetically, just doing 1.5 or 2.5k runs. I'm up to 2.4k is the furthest I've run so far in 12 runs, which is nowhere near enough to challenge my heart and lungs, but it's more from a tendon and bone
just get the
graduation point of view.
Body used to it. Yeah.
But I'm getting my really high intensity and high volume conditioning work via the bike.
Yeah,
which is where I'm conditioned to that as far as my knees are concerned, and I can just go because there's no impact on my bones or on my Achilles.
It's just great. You can smash it. You can smash your heart and lungs. You can get those enzymes, the high intensity stuff. Because the thing is too, in early days, the level of intensity you need to work out with to stimulate the metabolic response, to stimulate that metabolic fitness. To get the phosphofructokinase
and friends
in the game, that effort would probably tear your muscles at the moment too.
If it's a sprint, you have to do some 400s or 100s.
Whereas on the bike, you can do these awesome high intensity, full flat chat sprints in total safety.
Because there's none of that stretch shortening cycle. There's no pounding the ground.
Yeah. And so we are using bike work extensively with the Boomers this WNBL season. Because we've got it. The season has been shortened because of the Foxtel. There's a lot more games.
The TV partnership. Yep.
So what that means is like tonight there's a Thursday night game, and so or not tonight because you're watching this later. Sorry, there was a Thursday night game
because the average time between games has gone from like 5 days to like 3 or 4.
Shortened right now. Yeah, so what it often means is we really only get one main on-court hard session in a week, because if you've got a Thursday night game, and you've come off a Saturday game or a Sunday game, you're really only going to go hard at it in terms of ground reaction forces on Tuesday.
Yeah. So if you go hard on Thursday, you're going to be cooked.
You can't go hard on Wednesday. So we've been getting a lot of value out of smashing the bike. So the girls will on the lighter day they'll do a light on court and then lift and then smash the bike afterwards. Which some people say, interference effect. You can't do lifting and cardio the same day. It's like, well, can't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yeah, and their athletes are going to do a bit of everything in the game, so
yeah, it's fine. But I think it's massively beneficial. Some people get a bit silly about it and say, it's not functional. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's really useful.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be functional. That kind of,
because if you took functional to its logical extent, you would never go to the gym.
All you would do is play.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even do drills. It's like, well, there's not 8 people on the court when we're playing. There's 10.
Well, you would just play
5 on 5. Exactly.
It's a logically flawed argument. I don't like it.
The beautiful thing is you get the heart and lungs,
yeah,
and you're getting the enzymes, so your phosphorus, and your anaerobic pathways, and all that stuff getting upregulated. But you're also getting the mental toughness side of things as well,
because it hurts.
Because you're learning how to work through the burn and through that fatigue.
Can we talk about perceived level exertion? I think that's really relevant.
Ties in nicely.
So perceived level exertion is, there's how hard you're working, and then there's how much it hurts to be doing that work, and it varies across different things. So if you're going for a run and you're working at 170 beats per minute, that's hard, but it doesn't actually burn that much. It's not agonizing. It's not torturous pain.
Yeah, no,
It's hard, but to get your body to 170 beats on the bike,
I've been there,
it's agony. Like, it's really tough, because the perceived level exertion varies proportionate to how much of your body weight there is striking the ground on stuff.
Yeah, how much of it's loaded on. So
how loaded it is. Yeah.
So for example, when I do my cross trainer, my heart rate goes up to about 140, 150, significantly faster than when I do bike work.
And it's less painful.
Because my weight is on my legs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where's swimming fit in that? Because I've been swimming and I don't really enjoy it much. Where's that fit into
I think so. Swimming, once you have the technique, I think again has a because it's whole body, it's sort of different. It's not going to burn. It's not that central burn in the legs.
No, it's more, for me. It's more the heart, lungs, throat burn, and then later it becomes the shoulders.
Yeah,
but I think that's a more technical thing.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. Is bike seems to transfer well to my running, but swimming doesn't.
Well, also the thing with swimming is, I love swimming. Like, I just don't have I love the idea of it, and I like it when I can get to do it. But it's just, there's so much logistics. You've got to go to the pool. You've got to have
pay entry.
Goggles. I'm just too busy. Like, I can't fit it in. But if I had a lap pool, I would be swimming a couple of times a week. I reckon it'd be beautiful. Like, I go for my run, and I'd do 20 minutes of swimming recovery straight after the run. Yeah. That'd be perfect. The problem with swimming though is that it's very hard to do it at high intensities, because you're worried you're going to drown. Like, if you bust your guts doing the bike work, you can do it to absolute 10/10 of capacity.
Worst case scenario, you have a spew on your shoe.
Have a little spew. Yeah. But there's that thing with having to, good swimming is about keeping in rhythm, not over pushing yourself. So you're actually not getting that benefit. Because I think one of the things in cardio that has to be borne in mind is that most of the time, steady state cardio, where you're just going off on 25-minute run,
X minutes, and kind of cover distance for as long as you can.
I think really what you're mostly doing there is you're just kind of exhibiting the fitness you have. And you may be maintaining it.
You're working within the threshold you've built prior to the session.
Yeah, you're not actually developing your fitness particularly. So you're developing a little bit of an endurance capacity, and
it maybe burning some fat, and your mitochondria might be doing a bit of work, but nothing crazy.
But in terms of really shaking your body, in terms of grabbing your body and saying "get fit, fool," like in terms of making it do it, it's that well over capacity stuff.
It's that actually taking it beyond your limit,
beyond,
and then resting, and then going again, and then resting. Intervals up and
those
down.
Awesome studies where it's like people spending a total of 4 minutes.
Well, the 8 and 12 study, I was looking into it this morning, so I'm putting together our holiday stuff. There's some studies with 8 and 12s, 15% VO2 increases in 12 weeks, doing like 4 minutes or 6 minutes of 8 and 12s 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, it's like just get in, stimulate that adaptation, get out of the way, and the body the body responds.
Because you've got to go into that areas of discomfort.
Yeah,
go beyond your threshold.
And it's just great. And so the argument people will make against, there'll be a functional argument made against it, which I think
we sort of got sidetracked from.
Yeah, which is I don't agree with that argument. I don't subscribe to that at all.
Let's be clear here. Bike's not better than running. It's just a brilliant accompaniment.
It's a wonderful supplement. It's supplementing the fitness without overdosing the grain reaction forces. Yeah. The other argument that I heard made once, was ironically by a former triathlon coach. And he said, but it's going to tighten up everyone's hip flexors. It's really bad.
Being on the bike specifically?
Yeah. And that is true if like stretching your hip flexor before and after was illegal.
Yeah, like the net gain in fitness is worth the minute spent stretching.
Yeah, like just stretch it.
Yeah.
Like it'll be fine. It's not like it tightens it up and then you're like, oh well, I've been on the bike, I can't move anymore.
I did my intervals. I'm done for exercise. No stretching today.
Like it's a stupid argument. So there aren't many. The only really good.
It's like saying it's the same as saying you can't do your bench press because your pecs will get tight. Well, you do your bench, have a little pec stretch.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. The only really valid argument against doing high intensity work on the bike is it hurts and I hate it please don't make me.
You know? In which case I'll say, suck it up, princess. Yeah. We're going for more rounds. You owe me 3 more, yeah.
But that's a valid argument, you know. Let's talk about the different types.
Tactics, actual nuts and bolts. So I think bike is the best.
Oh, and so I wrote an article many years ago called Sport-Specific Fitness, You're Probably Doing It Wrong. And that gives a bit of a breakdown of it.
Yep.
And that has a video on it as well, I believe, of how to do some of the stuff as well.
And we've got links to how we do 8 and 12s, and we've got a video on repeat sprints for your actual running stuff, and then the 8 and 12s as well.
So there's all the info.
This will be a resources packed episode. Yeah.
So go on. Let's talk tactics.
Tactics. So I think the spin bike is the best.
Yep.
Because you can, unlike say cross trainer or swimming, you can very rapidly change the gear and change the intensity in a matter of 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So you can flick the gear up, start pedaling faster, and you go from cruising to sprinting. The switch over is really instant. Whereas on a cross trainer, you kind of have to wind it up.
Yeah. Because, so you want to, if you're doing 8 and 12s, which is probably the gold standard one to do, 8 and 12s will give you high fat burning, high anaerobic fitness, 8 seconds of gut busting effort followed by 12 seconds of rest. It also has the thing that even big wusses can actually push hard for 8 seconds.
Because
you don't have to be one of those those almost psychopathic endurance marathon guys who just like bring the pain. You don't have to be one of those guys. You can be a little bit on the soft side and you'll actually still push your capacity a little bit.
For our sports science nerds out there, historically everyone will talk about, but what about Tabata 20 on 10 off? To achieve that, you have to be working at 175% of your VO2 max. So whatever your intensity was at the end of the VO2 max, you have to be doing basically double that.
It's too hard.
During the entire 20 seconds. It's too hard. And just because this is a science thing, just because they proved that worked, didn't mean a slightly easier timing protocol like 8 and 12s doesn't also work just as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of historically, it's gone steady state and gone, okay, intervals are better. Then Tabata, who's just the name of a Japanese scientist, discovered 20 and 10 was brilliant. Since then, I think it was an Australian group. I've got the paper, I'll link it. I think it was an Australian group, but they just started with that 8 and 12s were awesome for fat burning and VO2 improvements. And it's just like, that's just another iteration that's a bit more consumer friendly. Yeah.
And sort of get done more, it's actually more effective. It's like a thing's effectiveness doesn't live in a vacuum.
Yeah, I think, that's what I was after. That's
like if it gets applied more, it counts for more. It's hilarious. And another example is Nordics. So studies came out showing, 3 sets of 7 Nordics have tremendous eccentric hamstring strength benefits. And then the research is like, well, I wonder what 2 sets of 4 does.
Yeah.
Because you don't know until so sometimes
it's not black and white. There's areas of gray in the middle.
So 8 and 12s are wonderful. People can do them hard. They're good team bonding. So they just.
And the sessions go really fast. You do the first 3 and this is going to take forever, and then all of a sudden it's over.
It's pretty good.
Once you get in the rhythm of it, it goes pretty quick.
Not any old spin bike though can work with it. I spent a couple of years looking with my little bit of OCD at all. I've tried every spin bike on the market, and we ended up settling on the Kaiser M3.
M3, yeah,
that's a great bike because what it has,
not cheap.
What it has the lever, so you can go 8. And it tells you what gear you're in, so you can go bang. I'm on load at
gear 15. And you can measure your watts as well, so you can track. All right, hit my 350 watts.
And then when the bell goes, you can gently tap it. Too many people are like
slam it,
boom. No, sorry about that.
Take the heat out gently. And also most bikes have the screw nozzle,
which is terrible. By the time you finish turning, the interval's over. And then some bikes have. It literally takes you 8 seconds
to go up 8 gears.
So
that doesn't mean it's impossible. You can still use it. You just need to, with every bike, you just need to get a flying start.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that you're already up to gear and already at top speed when the start bell goes, so that you get an entire 8 seconds of sprint.
And so if I'm on a bike with a dial-based solution for resistance, I'm going to start dialing up early.
And I wouldn't dial down as far either.
Yeah.
I'd leave my gear higher the whole workout.
So it's still doable. I think ours is the easiest and best. That's why we chose it, but it's still perfectly doable. So that's, and you want to have some form of external timing set up. So
an interval timer of some form. You can get a bunch for free on the iPhone and stuff like that.
They're really good. And it counts down, so you know you're making progress. And the other thing is...
we start with about 30 rounds as well. So 30 rounds of 8 and 12, which is 10 minutes.
10 minutes, that's not much. The other thing is, I think it's good to be thinking about your pedaling technique as you're doing it, because it makes it burn a little bit less. So the typical person jumps on the bike and they just shove with the quads.
Push. It's all push.
It's push. Proper cycling technique, there's various different metaphors used for it, but I like the one where there's your 3 phases. There's the push, the drag, and the lift. And what you're trying to do is, as one leg is pushing, the other one is lifting, and so that you're actually sharing the load between quads, hamstrings,
and even a bit of glutes in there as
and
well.
glutes.
Yeah.
There's have you tried the Watt bikes?
Yeah, they're tough.
They're really cool. Have you seen how they've got the diagram on them that tells you? They've got a crank power sensor.
X, Y, and can tell you what part of the pedal you're pushing on left and right.
And that tells you when you're using your glutes more.
Yeah.
So if you make like this sort of kidney bean shape, that means you're using your glutes more.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's really cool. So if you've got a $4,000 Watt bike in your gym, well played. You use that. But yes, try and spread that, and it gives you a metaphor I've heard used is, imagine that on the drag phase, try and drag chewy off your shoe along the ground.
Trying to scrape it on the pedal.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this lift is pretty obvious, push is pretty obvious, but that drag is just scrape
as you go around the bottom half.
And so cyclists will do things where they'll take one leg out of the pedal, and they'll just have to learn how to really smoothly get the pedal going, and that's why they call it spinning, because spinning was about, instead of shoving the crank, it was about spinning
over the
wheel.
whole 360 degrees. Yeah, clever.
Yeah. So if you do that, I think that helps the... Can you see I'm trying to find ways to avoid the burn because I hate it?
The other thing that's important is to help avoid the quad burn and to get more heart and lungs in it, is get your seat height right.
Yeah.
Far too often people go too low.
Oh my God. Like they're a clown at the circus.
Just like on like a little kid's bike. You want to be... every bike is a little different. Everyone says, I need to be hip height, because different bikes have a different step up height. So if you sit in the saddle and put your foot at the bottom, it should be a slight bend in the knee.
Yeah, with your foot plantar flexed, with your foot actually pointed down. So you should have your foot as it would be on the bottom of the pedal stroke, so not the drag, not completely flat, and a little bend in the knee.
Yeah, and so it should be just soft, and you should therefore, so that way it allows you to get that full push, drag, lift,
and you know, different people are going to need to adjust at different heights. Some people might have a back issue or an SIJ issue where it's actually just not as comfortable for them to be that high, so they might come down a little bit. So you've got to work within your personal comfort zone. But as a guiding principle, if you start out reasonably high, most people start out too low.
Yeah, nearly everyone I've seen who jumps on there starts too low.
90% of people. Yeah. So there's 8 and 12s, and they work really well.
So you go. You go.
No, you go because you're actually the cardio captain when it comes to bike.
I do like a bit of bike. So I like 30-30s.
Yeah, they're good.
30-30s are good.
I was about to say 30-30s.
Yeah, nice. So you have to, you can't go as hard as the 8s, but it forces you to get up to a point and then hold it for the entire 30 seconds. So it forces you to sort of, it's a little more aerobic, so it's a bit better for sort of your longer sports like footy, rugby and soccer, as opposed to basketball and netball. But that one's a good one. Also but you got to be a little mentally tougher for that one, because a lot of people will wuss out at the end of the 30 and they'll let it fade away in the last 10 seconds. So you've got to make sure you keep your watts up on that one.
I would ration it. I think if you do lots of 30-30, you can find yourself in that death valley of intense enough to tire you out, but not intense enough to force that maximal adaptation.
I'll do it once every 2 weeks, just as a shake up from 8 and 12s, really.
Yeah, I think once a week, once a fortnight. I think your mainstay of unloaded cardio should be proper high intensity, or like really cruisy, 30 minutes of at 150 beats, or like something quite easy, and you're just getting blood flow and you're getting an aerobic benefit, but there's not the adrenal fatigue. The worst place you can live is that middle ground where it's hard enough to make you tired, hard enough to wipe you out, but not so hard that it is really stimulating profound adaptation.
Which I would say the smack bang in the middle of that valley would be 60-60s.
Yeah. 60
on, 60 off it's hard enough to gas you and to burn through a bunch of glycogen, but not hard enough to really push anaerobic adaptations.
Yeah.
I think that's the worst one.
You want to stay away from that.
So I tend to stay 30-30s is the top, and then I work down from there. So 8 and 12s is the best. You can do things that are really high speed, like 10 on, 30 off. They're savage, where you just go 10 seconds, really high gear, hell for leather, but then you get a bigger rest as a result.
And you've done a bit of 15 and 45.
15 and 45s are nice as well, but again, you've got to work. Yeah. You can't just it's 15 seconds.
15, you need to. They're less not idiot proof, but you've got to
less
wuss proof,
less wuss proof, and you've got to be a little seasoned with your 8 and 12s before you start trying that stuff.
Yeah. So now's the time, I think, for a lot of people where their court load is down, and they're not able, they want to put extra fitness work in. It might be to people in pre-seasons, they feel like, sometimes you feel like you get a little anxious that you're a little off the pace. It's a great way to get extra work in without digging yourself into a ground reaction hole.
And core advantage athletes, be prepared for more in your programs as well.
Yeah, get excited.
We've started launching it onto everyone's programs.
Cool.
Heaps of show notes with this one, so I would suggest checking out either the blog post links to this article, or they'll be on Facebook, YouTube, or on the podcast as well. You can find them there. Happy reading.